On today's episode of Boring Conversation, I had the time to speak with an author, a publisher, an activist I have respected for a very long time, one I have come to admire from a distance. And it was a wonderful time having this conversation with Zukiswa Wanner, and it's a thing of privilege to get to be on the flotilla and for lots of reasons. You know, South Africa had gone through the same situation, and in and about this, the concerns we ought to be asking ourselves. You know, it didn't start with October 7. You know, the hostages should be released, fine, no troubles for non-violence, but we've seen so much bloodshed. The story being peddled as to it starting from October 7 is bullshit. It's not true. Anybody who knows history, the basics of history, would know that is not actually the case. In and about these are the concerns we've had down here. In and about these are the conversations we've had. We dwelled a long time talking about the inequalities and the problems caused by African leaders and the conversations in and about that. And it goes a long way to say how far we've betrayed ourselves as a continent. And you know, Sudan is having its own problem, Rwanda is having its own problem, Congo is having its own problem, and yet the resistance and the resilience shown by the journalists in Gaza is something that should be embodied by a couple of Africans, a lot of Africans even, if not for the people of Gaza, those on ground telling us these stories and showing us these pictures. We wouldn't have seen this. It is the same case for Congo, it is the same case for Sudan, it is the same case for the different places having issues at the moment, for Cameroon and all that. The few clips and the few stuff we get to see comes out of Western journalism, as well as it coming out also from the resilience and the resistance put up by few individuals. If you like what you get to see these people do, and you're seeing injustice in your country, it's in and about also that particular time. You tell yourself that you have to stand up and you have to fight for what you believe, and you have to fight for the right thing, and you have to fight for the right reason and for the right cause. In and about these are the conversations we have refused to have that we must be having. As they sail to Gaza, we hope and we pray that their mission come to pass. We've had so many flotillas in the past come to a halt, but there's never been a kind like this. About 40 boats, about 40 countries coming together to actually do this. It's quite a lot. It's quite remarkable. It's quite a thing I love to see. It's quite a thing I want to see happen more. It's quite interesting that against all odds, against the rise of darkness and the sheer hopelessness in the world, we can have someone like James Bowen remind us, what do you want to tell the children? What did you want to tell the children? That there's no hope? Is that what you want to sell to the children? That there's no hope for the future? I don't think so. I've lived long enough in this world from last century up until now to tell myself that indeed there is hope. And there is hope indeed. There is hope. There is hope. There is hope. And I hope you tell yourself that also, that indeed there is hope in the world. Dictators and empires may come and raise their head as though it would never go down. It always does. From the Soviet Union to different places, it always gets to happen. They will crumble. It doesn't take too long. Dictators always crumble. It's a given. They would fall, either by nature or by another force. But the people of Gaza deserve all the humanitarian aid and help they need. And these are the things we don't want to tell ourselves. These are the things we don't want to look at.
Welcome to Boring Conversations. These are not boring times, and this is not a boring conversation. We are recording while Flotilla sails towards Gaza, carrying a message of resistance and solidarity. See, ordinary people are making a stand that governments will not. Only days ago, the United States vetoed yet another United Nations resolution calling for justice, calling for permanent ceasefire, and it's been happening a lot in recent times. And that is one of the structural problems I have with the UN. It is a familiar story, power shielding, power cruelty extended by diplomatic ritual. The situations are unmistakable for anyone who remembers how long it took the war to act against apartheid South Africa. Our guest is Zukiswa Wanner, a South African writer and cultural activist, a journalist. Her novels include the Madams behind every successful man, Men of the South, London, Cape Town, Joburg, and Love, Marry, Kill. Her nonfiction ranges from 8,155. She has written for young readers as well with works such as Jamal Love's Banana, Nelson Mandela on the Run. In 2020, she became the first African woman to receive the Godmother. She has founded publishing platforms, created literary festivals, and carried African writing across borders. Today, she joins us from the flotilla itself, speaking not only as a writer, but as a witness to history in motion, speaking as an African, speaking about African conversations, African themes. And about these are the conversations we are to have today. And about these are the conversations we hope to have today. Welcome to Boring Conversations.
Thank you very much for having me, Obna. How are you?
I am fine. How are you guys on the high sea? You guys see sick? What's happening?
Well, we're on our way, I suppose. And right now, we're able to do this conversation because we are waiting other boats to come and join us. They were just getting fixed and they were refueling and stuff. And I am talking to you right now from Sicily as we make our way to Gaza.
Yeah, because I learned that's the last stop as to the a couple of members joining from and I had learned also a couple of Italian boats also joined the movement down there. What is giving this particular journey the momentum it needs? And recently the news carried as to the resilience you shared from the teammate and the crewmate on board, and many persons have been able to read the latest coverage you did in and about there. And if you could first run us through the importance of such a movement and why it is taking place in the first place.
Well, Obna, it's really just a lateral movement. It's people from across different places, different nations, 44 countries actually, and some who are artists, some who are scientists, some who are, humanitarians, some who work for NGOs, some who are coming as individuals. And really, to say enough. We've been watching on our televisions, on our cell phones, which have become our televisions now, on our computers, a screening of a genocide for almost 2 years now. It's going to be 2 years in a few weeks. And the world leaders have been have given a lot of lip service, but they haven't actually done anything major. So this is now civilians saying, governments, you have failed. And what we're going to do is us as citizens, we are going to do this peacefully, maintaining all the rights that are required and following the laws of humanitarian law, international humanitarian law, that allows us to go and create a humanitarian corridor so that food, medicines, diapers, formula can be delivered to the people of Gaza.
Wow, it's a big tax there, and many persons start this conversation from October 7th as though it was just in and about there, and that was just in and about everything that happened down there. But like a country like yours, you were born in Zambia to a South African father and a Zimbabwean mother. You're no stranger to this particular kind of kind of stuff, at least from a standpoint of from a standpoint of history and all those type of conversations down there. What can you say to people who are losing the hope as it concerns, the fact that almost nothing would get to happen? Because we all are children of the 20th century, and in and about this particular time, we've been able to see changes happen, and change is almost bound to happen, but in the process, it looks almost impossible. From the story of South Africa as well as your own Zambia, do you see this sense of hope? Is it happening now?
Sorry, what was your question again? Please use your mic so I hear you better.
Okay, is it clear?
Yes, now
Can you
it's
hear
clear.
me? Can you hear me? Okay. My question here is in a time where many persons are losing their sense of hope, their confidence in the fact that things would get to change and things would get better. Do you see hope? Because we are all people born out of the 20th century, and who, from either by way of experience or by way of our parents telling us one or two things that happened in times past, we've been able to see a place like South Africa regain its own freedom, and it the momentum at the moment is carrying the weight, just like Francesca Albanese will get to discuss with Yusuf. I think that was 2 days ago or yesterday. They had a conversation like we are having now. But the forces of evil also is rising strong and strong. What message of hope should we be holding in a time like this?
Listen, I'm an artist, and because I'm an artist at heart, I always believe that love wins
Sure.
in the end. And I think sometimes we think that we're alone and we think ours is the only voice. But what we have seen in the last, the very idea of this Global Sumud Flotilla is an indication that we're not alone, that many other people were horrified by everything that we're observing. And therefore, do not want to see more of it happen. But also, you know, there's this, after Second World War, there was this entire never again, and that was in relation to what happened to the Jewish people during the Holocaust. And yet, um, they did it again. I mean, we saw what happened in Rwanda. We saw what happened in Biafra, actually. There's Biafra, there's Rwanda. There are all these things, and,
There's
in
Kenya,
history.
the
And yeah,
Muammar revolution, and it's so sad that particular situation was so sad that at the same time they were trying Eichmann in Jerusalem, and the Nuremberg trials were going on. It was in and about the same time, concentration camps were being built in Kenya.
absolutely. So, there's a whole lot to be said, about the world and how it perceives uh, uh, people who are black or brown, and how their lives are less important. If you think about the fact that the Holocaust is the most talked about genocide, but there were two genocides that the Germans were actually particularly involved in prior
Yeah,
to that.
the
The
Namibian
first one was the
situation.
Nama Herero, but there
Yeah,
was also another one in Tanzania, the Maji Maji Rebellion,
sure,
you
sure.
know, where a lot of people were killed, but these are just brushed over. There have never been any reparations. There've never been. Namibia, I think, most recently got an apology, but an apology without restitution is not an apology.
Sure, sure.
If I burn your house down and then I say to you sorry, but I don't build you another house, I'm not really sorry, am I? Because I get nothing out of it other than just pay lip service, and that's essentially what happened, and so we're seeing it again. I mean, we've seen it all the time with with Palestine, because this has gone on for longer, and as usual, um, the criminal is the same. It's the British who started this all. They are the ones who we can trace down the way that they decided that they're going to carve out the country now known as Nigeria, and it's the British who did that. You can look at uh, Cameroon. You can look at in fact, the crazy borders that they have, where between in Southern Africa, where relatives are apart, and families were broken, and one is on this side of the border and the other is on the other side of the border.
Because they
And
went on to draw
yet,
maps born out of
exactly,
rulers.
yeah, and none of our ancestors were actually in Berlin at that Berlin conference, and so I think that's why I'm always taken aback when, as these fake nation states that we hold on so tightly to these stupid little borders that we had nothing to do with. And yet, you know, in the same breath, it's gonna be like, a Ghanaian coming to Nigeria will be like given short shrift and stuff. But an Oyinbo is treated like he's everything, type of thing. He can go there and just like pollute the waters in River State and nothing happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. I get.
So
I faced that challenge
yeah,
also as
part
being a kind of a European historian, sort of. You get this idea of this first shock. Why are you recording? Why are you writing about? Why are you writing about this? I am currently on a documentary on Joseph Conrad, and then you get this shock from scholars even. Why are you writing about Joseph Conrad? But I'm like, if you look around the African studies departments and faculties around Eastern Europe and a whole lot of other places, you have very few Africans, and a large chunk are Europeans, and nobody has ever asked them, why are you an African scholar? Today, I even had a conversation with a friend of mine who is a Korean scholar, and she's European, and she's never been questioned why she's studying Korean history and language. But
I know. Have a European or North American come to Africa for 2 weeks, then they'll be like an expert on Africa. Please. So, so I keep saying the only thing that I got from going to the abroad is I can now claim to be an expert on Europe. You know. But yeah, it's unfortunate, but it's also unfortunate that we have permitted that, and the way we've permitted it is through our leaders. So I think as Africans, not just as Africans, as the global South in general, we have a lot of unlearning to do, unlearning about our own superiority and their our own inferiority and their superiority. One of my favorites, I've got a young friend of mine from Mozambique, and he says, I don't know whether you know TAP, the airline, the
yeah,
Portuguese
yeah,
airline.
yeah, yeah.
Yes, he says TAP is the biggest university, for Lusophone Africa. And I said, how so? He said a Portuguese guy will get on a flight as a plumber, and when he gets to Mozambique or Angola, he's an engineer. You know?
And we
But
rarely
yeah,
these things.
no, I'm telling you. But you see, this is how it happens, because you've got people who are geologists, who are engineers and whatever, in Nigeria, they will never be given the sort of authority over the oil industry as like some random Oyibo coming out of the UK or Holland or something else, you know? So those are the things to think about. And so even as I'm taking part in this Global Sumud Flotilla, I keep saying to people that you need to understand how it's all really interconnected. It's capitalism at play, you know, it's uh making us the 99% fight, you know, for crumbs, while the 1% just thrives and, you know, profits and stuff. Because the weapons that are tested on the people of Palestine in Gaza are the same weapons that are being sent uh, to kill our brothers and sisters in the Sudan, you know, with UAE as a proxy government
Yeah.
for the Zionist state. They are also the same weapons that are given to M23 to kill our brothers and sisters in the Congo, you know. They're the same weapons that probably you'll find that Lagos State has got, and then at some point in time when people in Nigeria are asking for an end to SARS, they get shot with those weapons. So we need to question that the same weapons that are killing our brothers and sisters in Haiti, you know, where there's a civil war. Haitians don't make weapons, you know. So we have to start thinking about all these things in a very holistic way. And, you know, part of my joy at being on this particular flotilla is realizing that they are many people, not just who are part of the flotilla, but even who've been contacting me, who've been saying something, who get it, who understand it, that as a world, we're at a precipice, you know. It's either we're gonna fall and we'll never come back up, or we need to set things right now. And it's up to you, it's up to me, it's up to all of us in the world. And at some point in time, because you know how politicians are, they'll want to be popular. So if they realize that we've got the numbers, they'll be very quick to dump their capitalist friends, you know, because they realize that they can't go very far with it. So, you know, we are at a very pivotal moment as a world, and Gaza and Palestine are ground zero. But if we don't do anything, if we sit back and we're like, what are we gonna do? This is the death knell for a lot of us. Because you think about it, as Africans, we are treated like third class citizens wherever we go, you know. Uh, we can't even say we're just going to Japa, you know, because if you don't have, if you don't have the, firstly, the income to be able to stay there, but secondly, we just saw over there in the UK last weekend, uh, this Britons saying that they want their country back or whatever it is, as if they got a visa when they came to our countries. Anyway.
It's so appalling. We don't even want to talk about the whole idea of rebuilding the UK, the so-called empire after the Second World War, and the many betrayals they did to people who left from all colonies to come build the so-called country, and then got evicted or got their visas or their citizenship revoked a few years ago, and it's a whole lot of conversations in and about there, and it's a
It
sad thing
is,
that
it is, but it's tragic, isn't it? Because that's what capital does, isn't it? They play us against each other.
yeah.
So you have I was talking to some Germans who are part of this flotilla, and I said to them, listen, you just had a lot of your car companies shut down, and the reason is because they don't want to pay workers enough. You know, your workers are unionized, they don't want to pay them enough. And you just had this thing shut down. But what happened is those companies came to South Africa. They came to South Africa and our neoliberal in chief told us that he's created special economic zones where these things are being assembled. But if we don't understand we're part of one globe, you know, uh, these cars that are being assembled, Volkswagen, BMWs, and stuff and everything, the South Africans who have been given these jobs cannot even afford to buy one of the cars. So how does that work?
Typical capitalism, making
Exactly.
Marx right
So
all the time.
if a German worker does not know and refuses to engage with a South African worker, they're both going to be messed up. And they do that even with people, you go to Ghana and they'll say the same thing that if you come to South Africa, they'll say about you. They'll say, these Nigerians are taking our jobs, they're taking our women.
Yep.
Yeah?
The women more than
Okay.
even the jobs.
No, let's just start with the jobs, But as if women have no agency, but the jobs anyway. So they're taking our jobs. But and 3/4 of the time, if somebody gets a job, over 75% of our stock exchange listed companies are not black owned. They're not owned by the majority of our people.
Sure.
And so the question should be, when you're saying somebody is taking your job, you should actually be saying, wait a minute. And that's the question you should ask. Wait a damn minute. Who is giving this person the job? Because all that means is they're underpaying them. They don't want to pay the minimum wage that you'd have to pay a South African worker. They're not going to pay pension. They're not going to pay a few other things that they need to do. So they play us against each other. You are a black person you're an African in the United States, and you really buy into the rubbish that, oh yeah, black Americans are lazy, they don't want to work, this and that and the other. And the black American is told, no, these Africans, they're busy taking your jobs, this and that. And then the white person comes, they come to you and they're like, you speak good English, you're very articulate, you're very cultured, you're not like these are natives here. And then they go to the black American and they're like, these ones, they're taking your jobs and whatever. So in so doing, you and I are busy fighting each other, for a job by this person in the 1%. And we're busy, we can kill each other. Our lives mean nothing to them. We can kill each other and for nothing. And we're killing each other over fighting to make profits for somebody else.
Sure. It's so sad. It's so sad. It's the same thing that played out also in the Mama Revolution. The loyalists as well as those who were asked to spy on, and then those who kept their grounds, and then the betrayal. The cycle continues. You go down to Congo, you look at Lumumba, you look at Mobutu. It's the same stuff that continues to get to play, and I don't know for how long it will take us before we really get to
Shall
learn.
they kill our prophet?
Yeah, the great reggae musician will get, the great reggae singer will get to tell us, and we just continue
I think we I actually have a bit of faith, but I think also like to lose hope is a form of death. Actually,
That's what Bowen said.
being hopeless is a form of death, and I refuse to succumb to hopelessness. I want to believe that there are more good people than bad people, and I want to believe that if the good people don't necessarily always know what it is, what just needs is a little nudge,
Yeah.
so that they learn about it. And that's why conversations like this are important, because I can write stuff in a book, but not everybody will read everything that I write. In fact, it's probably one of the dangers because I look at quite a lot of African countries and there's taxation on books. And I always say, nobody ever asks why there's taxation on books. There's taxation on books because they want to keep us from knowing things and asking questions. If that's the best thing you do, you just say, oh no, the only book you need is the Bible. And nobody questions anything, So
Translated to your native language, translated
to your native language,
to your
but they're not going to be translating chemistry or physics or anything like that.
a Nigerian guy, Mark Ogbonna, translated physics. Was it last year or 2 years ago to Igbo, and he was being jarred and laughed at by fellow Nigerians. They're like, what is that supposed to happen? But I've been in Czech. I've lived in Germany. I've lived in Poland. They don't teach these things in English. They teach them in they teach them in Dutch. They teach them in Polish. They teach them in Russian and all that. And
No, but that's part of the reason why I say that one of the most important things that um will need to happen for our liberation to happen is for us to unlearn a lot of things that we internalize and learn our self-hatred. Um, it can be that you see on social media and they consider it a joke, somebody asking somebody to pronounce a word in English, and if they don't pronounce it rightly, then you laugh. It can be that you see on social media uh just Oyebo speak a word of Hausa and everybody starts applauding. Like, what the hell is that? Like, oh my God, he can get the land. Huh?
like
What land are you giving
I
away?
learn Polish. I speak the much I can, and nobody sees me on the street and start praising me. And oh, he's now becoming a Polish man and stuff like that. Or the little German I get to know, and then I use it on the street. That cannot even take me to buy bread if I go to the shop. And they're just like, "What's taking you so long from learning the language?" And then they just say, "How far now?" in the pidgin, and then we are like, ah, and then you get to see the other part also where they get to ask questions as how do we get internet connections and those type of stuff, and you see us make those jokes, and we look at those subtle things and we don't really take them seriously. And I don't know how long it's going to take us to get out of here. The whole idea of books and all that also is also another kind of conversation we're not even ready to have. Publishers like you um, find themselves in difficult situations, first for funding, and even after the books have been published, you talk about buying the books and the high stakes of even coming to purchase these books because they don't really know the direct connection between their salary and what is stopping them from actually getting to read. Apart from your last novel, I can say I have been able to go through all other of your works. It is because of time that I've not been able to look at the last work, and many persons will not
Imagine the last work
understand
is the
that.
only one that's actually published in Nigeria.
Not in Nigeria. But that is not the
I'm
reason. The
serious.
reason, yeah,
I'm
I know.
saying
I know.
that was the easiest for you to get.
I
You could
know.
have
It's
just got somebody who was Japaying, and then you say, please, can you bring me a copy of this?
no, the problem is not the book. The problem is timing, right? The problem is timing, and it's there's a whole lot on one step, and I'm not giving excuse. I I would I by the end of October, I'll give you a feedback on that particular. So
You know,
the
your
point I
people
was
are always like going over there for what you call it, for summer, for dirty December.
look at the way cultural influence has taken over the whole stuff down there. But the point I was trying to make here with this particular idea of the ease for me to have been able to read your works and the works of almost everybody I've been able to write to come on my podcast and talk is not necessarily born out of the fact that I earn so much. It's born out of the fact that where I am, so to say, the economy has been stabilized to a large extent, whereby you can buy a book with less than what it costs you to work for 1 hour, and you don't really get to like feel it. Also, that is, you have a job, but the people back home don't really see that there's a direct connection between the advocacy and the policies that are being set up by their so-called government and all that, and the conversations here tend to be endless. How did apartheid in South Africa come to an end?
It didn't.
Of course, I know it didn't. Like just the official 1990s kind of bullshit.
Listen, the official 1994 thing is pretty much like like you know, Ghana in 58. It's pretty much like Nigeria in 61. You know, we got to what you call it. We got an anthem. We got a flag, and every 4 or 5 years we get to select who our head boy or head girl is gonna be.
And then
You
we
think
sing
about it.
Posisi.
You think about it. Even a soccer club, every football club, you know, Barcelona, they've got a flag, they've got an anthem.
They got a president that manages the board,
You know,
and
exactly. Or no, not even. You know, we can't even say the president that manages the board. The person they vote for is the president of the fan club. You know, and that's the same thing with us, man. So we're not Chetu. We're just we're just going by on vibes and inshallah, you know. That's our lives, man. So it was all very cosmetic. It was who is going to uh guide and guard the monies of uh you know, Western capital best, you know. And that's the reason why, with Francophonic countries, the very idea that their money was being banked in France. And now with them saying now, hey, France, we don't want anymore. France is like, what? Because now they're thinking, what am I gonna do now? You know, we're so
it's.
used to having these profits.
I
This is
walk
how
through the
this is
streets
how they
of
make their living.
Paris. I walk through the streets of
Dude,
Paris. It's so small. It's so
no,
small.
I
Look
know
at
it's such a lie.
Belgium.
No, but it's such a lie. It's really good. You know, this is the thing about marketing, isn't it? Um, People market themselves so well, and they make it seem like something amazing has just happened. Meanwhile, you know, when you get there, it's kind of heartbreaking because you're like, Aish, I know for a fact that if we had people with, like people who would like when they get 100%, they still 60%, and then they still 40%, and they use 60% to actually make things. And then you think about it, if this was actually what was happening, then we would have a much better improved thing. It can't be that a president of a country, citizen one, dies in another country because the hospitals in their country are dysfunctional. What exactly were you presiding over?
Nigeria.
You're presiding
Nigeria.
over
That's
what?
why I had to raise my hand up. Nigeria is at the helm of
No,
affairs. This particular the president goes to France and tells us he's going for a vacation. I have never heard Trump go for vacation another man's country. Highest he goes to his own golf. He can go to his golf courses and all that. But then you find from Yaradua to Buhari that is dead now, and we are meant to, remember him as a good person when he did almost next to sliced bread and nothing. And we don't even have the hospitals that can really, really take these people. And
No, but you see, part of the problem though is people always say, oh no, let's not do politics, and I always say that everything we do is political, from the side of the road you walk to the price of bread, you know. And the moment you understand that, the more you then can get to agitate for stuff. We're from a continent that has an average age of 19.6. That's a young continent. So I don't understand somebody who's like, you know, the age of Tinubu running to be president. If you told Tinubu, like, if you told Tinubu to act his age, he'd die because everybody's age is dead. You know?
we don't even know his age.
So,
When he was governor, he
yeah,
celebrated his
yeah, but
71st birthday,
yeah,
and now we
but I
still
mean,
don't even know.
not just that, but you know, what type of, his future is the grave. So when he's talking about the future, what type of future is he talking about? So on a continent, so I always make, you know, it's light, but I actually mean it. I always think that maybe on a continent with that average age, what we should do is we should lower the voting age to 15 and stop everybody under 55 from over 55 from voting. Like, no, where's your future? You know? And I'm almost close to that age, but I'm really, really, really like serious about it, because I think the people who get affected by the future are the ones who should make those decisions. It can't be, it can't be that we our public schools are dysfunctional. It can't be that our public hospitals are dysfunctional. It can't be that our experienced and brilliant doctors and nurses and teachers uh, are teaching in other countries and treated like third class citizens
Have friends.
in Europe and in the global north, in the New Zealand and in Australia's and in the US and in the UK. It can't be. It's not okay. You
Got
know. So I think as a continent, we really just need to sit down and ask ourselves, see, what are we doing?
got friends recently who, from what I learned from these type of programs they get to do, have the most easiest visa process I've known in the history of my travel histories for some years now. The French government, comes to Nigeria in partnership with some so-called educational schools and Alliance Française, and take people from, to go teach for 6 months, 1 year, and in primary schools. And these people are gladly accepting these jobs because, the exchange rate definitely would give them something better. And then they're not even interviewed for their visas. They're just given their visas sort of because it's in partnership with their government, and they just cut them away. And our government seem not to understand what is going on down here. And we have consulars in different countries. We have ambassadors, sort of different countries, and I don't really know what they are doing. I don't even know what their
No,
plans.
but I mean, a lot of the people in cabinet and what you call it are really just colonial clerks for empire. You know, uh, they get excited. Like Macron says, oh, my friend Tinubu, you know,
Yeah.
and then he'll be, ah, and they start
Did
giggling.
you
You
did
know,
you, did you see the latest
Paul
photo
B.
ops they did?
I haven't.
You are sailing, so you've not seen it. The president claims to be going for vacation, and then he ends up in France again, receiving treatment and all that allegedly. Let's always use that word allegedly, so that we, according to the laws, we try to be safe and all that. But she just do photo ops and no discussions, and she just calls you my friend, and everything is fine. Same thing also with with the UN, the Israeli delegate to the UN. He was calling, was it the American who was saying, my friend, after vetoing against the other 14 that voted for a permanent ceasefire in Gaza, just calling themselves my friend, and continuing the circle of violence and continuing the circle of hypocrisy down there. And one can only but imagine how, what I try to understand is not as if I don't know. I just finished a paper. It's called Bullshitting and the Nigerian Condition, as to how our leaders just bullshit around and tell all forms of lies. But it's just, how is it that we cannot sit down as a continent or as individual countries to look at whatsoever agreements we signed with the empire, either before or after independence, and try to tell ourselves that we must really, really work at this. Else, it will come a time where even the so-called abroad would not favor almost anybody again. We are seeing the rise of nationalistic ideas, and we're seeing the rise of people wanting the same story, give us our country. Even Venice, where people just go for vacation, people are beginning to say it's becoming overcrowded. Amsterdam, same thing. And there's just going to be this rise. And if we happen to come from the same father and the same mother, that's same father's loin, and our family's business is going through a downturn, and we need money to actually get to invest and revamp this business, and we find a bank sort of to get to loan us money, would the first thing be how to share this money and go on spending escapade and the likes of these, or will it be in and about looking at ways to maintain this family's legacy and this culture of maintenance? And if even every family member is not in for the sharing of the money, what do you think will happen to the 1, 2, 3 family members who take this money and take babes or take guys or go for the so-called summer vacations? And what will happen to them when they come back? I don't want to believe they will be alive or stuff like that when they come back, and then they meet the vast majority of other family members who didn't participate in this. But it is the sheer guts by our leaders to do this, to spend what belongs to everybody. In fact, to spend what doesn't even belong to them, because I don't see them as citizens of our own countries. They mostly have houses elsewhere. If you find yourself in the UK, if you find yourself in Belgium, if you find yourself even in Germany down here, you see their houses and all that. So I don't really consider them, to a large extent, citizens. Like Atiku comes in every 4 years to come and contest for elections and then go back. And it's sickening.
It really is, but that's what I'm saying also. We must put a cap on the age group of who can run, and but additionally, Opna, do you actually think that you ever going to convince this particular leader? You think about it, all of them who are in charge now, they were already alive at their country's independence. They were already probably in power in some way or other
Yep.
at the time of their country's independence. So, you've got 54 countries, and of those 54 countries, they couldn't manage to even build their own house. The African Union headquarters was built by the Chinese as a gift. If somebody is building your own house, what type of nonsense is that?
And we're talking about a time where people are installing softwares and gadgets here
I
and
mean,
there, and
so why are you even there? If you are now, they're talking about reforming of the UN, and I'm like, okay, but your idea of reforming of the UN is oh, can you also give us 2 permanent seats? You are part of the global south. You are more powerful than anybody as in numbers. How about you ask for more seats than 2 permanent seats? You know, you think about it. Europe has like 4 seats on the permanent on the Security
A
Council.
subcontinent.
Yes, it's got 4 seats, and then you've got whatever and then the US has 1. That's the 5th, and then you are agreeing that you must whatever. No, if you're gonna have reform, you can't have a situation where all of you are voting and and all of you vote in a certain way. And these are people, by the way, who've been selling you democracy in your countries. They've been telling you you need to have one man, one vote, and then majority rules. And if they decide this is the one man that they like, they'll rig it for him in his favor. So they tell you majority rules. So if majority rules, why are you then okay, with the fact that the United Nations, 196 countries can vote a certain way? Then one country decides that they're not going to agree, and then we decide,
Then
and then
it's
all of a
vetoed.
sudden that doesn't count. That's the reform of the UN that we need. That
Yep.
there can't be any vetoes. You can't have any veto as one country. You wanted majority rules, you want democracy, there's your democracy.
And it's so sad. Last year, I wrote this paper about the hypocrisy of the UN and how, to a large extent, delays tend to come. We are having this conversation in and about your trip now to Gaza. Similar stuff happened in Rwanda, and almost no pronunciations were made. And then in the long run, you come and tell me never again, never again. And now you are saying stop the firing, stop the killings, and with the latest drones and all that now, and what you get is more and more and more. There's never been a time when we've lost so many journalists in one particular situation. In a little strip, we've lost so many journalists, even from organizations who have come to lose their own journalists, even to mourn their so-called employees. It's been so difficult for them to even do, from router to the guys who've lost their members across this other side. It's been so difficult. And then those who have stuff that looks like Arabic names, or those who have stuff that looks like name coming from the Middle East, they are quickly tagged terrorists and tagged as those belonging to Hamas. And these stuffs are done by colleagues. And never in my life have I seen the silence that is coming out of the Western media houses. Is it from
And you know what?
BBC?
The most powerful thing that we can do at this time, they have shown us who they are. We need to believe them. And because we believe them, the best thing that we can do is deplatform them. We don't need validation by them. And this is the time where we say, you are liars. We're not going to go and say BBC. We're not going to say yes, CNN. We're not going to say yes, all the Reuters, yes, Associated Press. You know what? We are unsubscribing from you all. We are disengaging, and we are going to get our news wherever we get it from, and we've been getting it anyway without them, because you clearly are here for a certain agenda. But Kwabna, I have to switch off,
Yeah,
my brother,
yeah.
because sorry, Obna, I have to switch off because I have to allow the person who's the captain. This is the captain thing, so I have to get out,
Okay.
and yeah.
I
That's the
I
only
really
quiet place I could find.
I really appreciate the time we're having this conversation and in about everything happening down here. You guys also, finally, before we go, there's also the fear of interceptions and fire rates and conversations in and about that. How you guys managing that particular situation? I know there have been bombings here and there. Down here on the ground, Greta Thunberg and a whole lot of other persons have been accused for, staging certain things which only can be done by propaganda media, right? And the likes of Ben Shapiro and a couple of other persons in camps. I will not be surprised if Ben Shapiro all of a sudden comes to say something very positive nonetheless. right? So how are you guys managing this particular situation? And there's a chance of imprisonment, there's a chance of being taken into detention and all that. What's keeping this momentum going again? That's the first question I asked, and it's the question I'm still saying again.
Okay, I think one of the, we've had obviously the concerts that happened before. There was the other flotilla,
Yeah,
there was the Handala, there was the Madeline.
yeah.
I think what sets this particular thing apart is
The number.
those times, the numbers. So you've got the numbers, and we're also hoping, because to live is to hope, as I keep saying, Obna. We're also hoping that, you know, uh, the world's attention that is on this, will really like be essentially the guiding light, uh, so that we make it all the way to Gaza, and create the humanitarian corridor that's much needed to get food and medicines and everything else there. So, yeah, we are, doing this on hope, and we know that we've got tens of millions supporting from across the world, and and really that's the wind beneath our sails, so to speak, you know. And hopefully that will lead us there. But we have had training on in the event of an interception and possible arrest by the Zionist state. Um, Nothing, of course, prepares you really, but there are certain things that we expect, and we shall. We hope we don't have to use them. We hope we don't. Have to identify this is the lawyer who's going to help me. We hope that we just get to Gaza, and the people of Gaza can get the much needed assistance that they get. But equally important, we hope this shames world governments into doing something, because this is a job that governments should be doing, not us as civilians. So we hope that that shames them, and then I don't care if I think what we need to start doing now is we just need to tell, like, as the humane people of the world, maybe we just need to say to all world presidents, and the United Nations would have been the perfect place to say it, and just say to them, listen, guys, we don't actually care if Israel has your nudes. We're forgiving you for everything that happened prior
Allow
to
them
this day.
release it.
So long, you know, so long as you move on, whatever.
We will
But
not even we
we're
will not
going to
even
forgive
watch.
you.
We will not even download them. We
We're
will
going
not
to
save
forgive
them.
you.
Just
We
allow
won't
them
shame you.
release them.
We're gonna forgive you. All you need to do though is right now you have to act right. Act right, and you know what the right thing to do is. So forget those nudes, forget whatever it is that you had. If you're I don't know, if you're in a compromising position with a goat, you know, we're going to act like we don't know about it. All that matters is do the humane and kind and right thing over what's happening. Again, disengage um, with the Zionist states. Uh, every country, if you've got companies that are there, um, that are still trading with them, you know what? Deregister them. Deregister those companies. Uh, Tell them to get out of your country. If you're having people who have dual nationality, citizenship, and who've served in the IOF, you know what? uh, Arrest them, charge them for crimes against humanity, because in not charging them, you're actually contravening international law. We have people who have you know who have been sent on press junkets to the Zionist state and stuff and everything. Let's question those people. What were you doing there? How dare you?
Xavier and a couple of them, and
Yeah. So we've got we all love our sports as Africans. Let's insist that FIFA kicks out, Israel from football.
South Africa
One.
was suspended. Russia had it few weeks into the invasion, and there was no question about that. And
exactly. Let's not have these people in the Olympics. And you know what? If you insist that you're going to do this, if you insist that you're going to keep quiet, the people will act. You saw what happened in Spain recently.
sure,
These guys insisted that they were going to have this bicycle race, despite the fact that people said, no, don't have any Zionists on this race. They ignored it. They had to cut short now the race because you can't go against the people. The only power that we have right now is our voice, and many of us have chosen to use our voice. Sometimes we act, as is this case, where, we're hoping to form a non-violent humanitarian corridor. Nobody, we don't, I was even like worried about the bread knife in the kitchen. I'm like, hey, isn't this like, once somebody says this is whatever, because, Zionists like to play games. But the truth of the matter is, this is like, according to international law, it's right. But again, as I don't get tired of saying, this is not something that civilians should be doing, and yet they're quiet. You and I are Africans. We could say the same thing about what's happening in Sudan, the number of people in the Congo, and like all these things. Like, you guys, you meet each other, you shake hands with with murderers at the African Union. How does that work, brothers? Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. But we need to ask some hard questions of our politicians, and we need to make sure that we give them something where they're going to regret uh, any bad actions on their part. They need to know that all their choices have consequences. Even if their choices is not acting at all, that has consequences.
it's a lot. It's a lot. I cannot thank you enough for joining your voice as well as the grandson of Mandela. And it will not be surprising for anybody who actually know history to see to it that South Africa would be the one to ordinarily take Israel to the International Court of Justice. I remember that time when the lawyer who wrote this the land is ours, and
Okay, Toby.
thank Toby,
Tembe.
yeah, and yeah. When they were like, "What does an African lawyer get to know?" And I'm like, "You guys don't know the person you are talking about," and he was not even going alone. And what does the same racist law? What does Africa know about international law that he wants to go and sue Israel? And then we saw how it ended up, and BB is still working freely, and it's still walking around and going to places we're not supposed to go to. We know this double standard in a whole lot of conversations, and we hope that your movement out there would also see to it that as it happened in South Africa, as it has always happened in places where evil tend to think it will carry the day forever, that the people of Gaza also will come to have their freedom. And for many persons who tend to think, it started in October 7, that is a very, very false premise. When people left Europe in the 40s, in the 30s, as refugees heading to the Middle East, they weren't going to Israel. They were going to Palestine. They were going to a different place before whatsoever the empire did, whatsoever they did, and then they did the whole Balfour Declaration and all those type of stuff, causing confusion almost everywhere. Promising the Panama Canal to different people, promising different things to different people, and never keeping to their promises, and then coming and pretending as though everything is all fine. That's the only part I don't really also understand. You just keep promising land and promising people things. You promise the Japanese this, you promise Egypt whatever you promise them, you promise the Taliban whatever you promise, they promise Afghanistan whatever you promise them, and You cannot even keep up with these promises. And we are the ones that were supposed to be uncivilized. And then you are supposed to be seen as the civilized one. We don't produce weapons, like you said. We don't produce guns. We don't produce all of this stuff in the on large scale, but yet we are the uncivilized people. We are not the ones upon which the burden of slavery is on our shoulder, and the burden of it is on our shoulder on a low scale, but on the large commercial scale, you don't find us wanting in all of those type of situations. And in my covering of Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness, I also pointed out the whole issue of the 20th century and what Europe did to itself, because it was a war fought by itself with itself. And recently, the one of the officials representing EU made the blunder that China didn't win the Second World War, and I was like, these people don't even know their history, don't even know what China did as it concerns fighting the Nazis and all of those type of conversations with the Japanese and all that. But I'm not the one that will teach them their history. If they have decided to, forget their history because it's too gory for them to look at, it is their business. And with that, we come to the close of our conversation down here. I really appreciate. I'll read your last book. I will write. I'll write. I'll write you. I will let you know I've read it. There are lots of beautiful books in recent times that I've not really been able to come around with.
No, it happens.
Sometimes I just feel
Thank you, Obna.
Sometimes I just feel like I should have like 7 secretaries, and then they should. But even if they read and come and give me the summaries, it's not me reading the books, right? It's almost like me depending on third parties now or second parties, whatever that is. I hope your journey to Gaza be safe. I hope the aim and the purpose of this particular flotilla achieve the purpose down there. Yeah, because in the long run of it, beyond the social media reels and all that, it is that this gets to the right people and to the right place. And like you said, Israel has proven that it doesn't want to listen. It doesn't really care. But we know what happens to tyrants, and we know what happens to dictators. They don't last forever. It might look as though it will be dark forever.
Empires die. Yeah.
Of course. Thank you. I really appreciate. We've gone above what we had planned for.
Right.
But I like it that it kept it this way.